Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Munce Report. We've got a big weekend of racing coming up and great to see the sun finally starting to come out.
Very refreshing, isn't it? I mean, it's been a bit of a dreary week, but hopefully we can get to the races this weekend and get on top of the ground here at Eagle Farm.
Yeah, well, there's a huge weekend of racing coming up at Eagle Farm. Southern Stock entered for the Group 1 Derby among a host of other stars. We'll talk about them in detail in the show ahead. Also recap the week that was. Chris will give us some runners to follow from this week's jump outs, as well as we'll catch up on what an off-the-track star's doing in his new life. Okay, well, there's not a lot happening on the racing front over the past week with all the washouts and whatnot, but the one horse that did get to the track, get to the race, is Majestic's Request. He put his best foot forward and ran a nice second.
Yeah, he did. No, it was a very good run. He'd been freshened up. He hadn't run since the Daybreak Lover, and it was a shame we missed a jump out with him on the Tuesday leading into it. Otherwise, I felt he probably would have won the race. But he's racing very well, and I'd love to try and target a race like the Grafton Guineas with him. I think that's a race that would probably suit him.
Okay, so we'll have another run before then, or...?
He'll have another run probably in 10 days' time up here, just another restricted race, and then as long as he's fit and well, we'll probably head to Grafton with him.
Very good, yeah. Well, he deserves a shot at that higher level, doesn't he? So
yeah, it's a good meeting. Max always likes getting to Grafton, so hopefully it's one he can cheer on down there.
Yeah, well, he has had some success in the past. First Crush obviously won the Grafton Cup a few years back in the colours, so keep an eye out for Majestic's Request in the coming weeks. Okay, well, it's great to see some trials and jump outs during the week after all the rain, and obviously very important for their preparations. And you had 9 jumping out at the trials and the jump outs at Eagle Farm on the dirt, and some of the runners to follow. Rhapsody Rose looked good.
She did, yeah. She'd had a little bit of a setback there with a blood disorder there after her run at the Gold Coast, so we got that back on track, and she jumped out very good there on Wednesday for Savannah, my young apprentice, and who handled it quite well as well. I've got to give her credit. She rode the horse very well. As we know she can be a bit hard to handle, but she did a good job with her and she trialled up very nicely.
Okay, so back on track, tick for Rhapsody, and what are you thinking now with her?
She'll run next Saturday here in a 3-year-old 1,200 metre race at Eagle Farm. That should hopefully get her back on track, and then we'll assess her after that as to where we go. Okay, another runner that performed was Comments, who was having his first trial. First trial back this time around, yeah. He went out, had a bit of a wind-up done on him, bit of a tie-back surgery, and he seems to be coming back in good order. He's a lovely big horse, big strong galloper, and his performance records have been very good. So it was nice to see him trial the way he did there on Wednesday. Okay, we'll keep an eye out for him in the coming weeks. And then Emma Sam was another one who looked pretty good for a first trial. Yeah, no, well, she's come back well. She's been screaming out for a jump out and trial for the last couple of weeks, but they've kept getting washed out. So she was relatively forward for her assignment yesterday, and I thought she went very nicely. Okay, very good. Well, there you go. A few runners to follow out of this week's jump outs. Okay, off the track time and time to check in on a former stable favourite. He wasn't necessarily a star, but he was definitely one of the favourites, and we're talking about Starkers, who, let's wind back the clock to his racing days, Chris. You bought him at the 2017 Magic Million sale, and he wasn't your typical classic yearling buy. Tell us the story there. Yeah, no, it was a bit of a story behind it. He was, I suppose, unwanted at the time, and we'd sort of inspected quite a few, and Kathy just happened to have a soft spot for this horse. He was a bit of a loner there in his own, but he was a lovely natured horse, and he got passed in, I think, for 9,500. So he had a bit of a parrot mouth. Had a parrot mouth. He wasn't the prettiest looking horse. His conformation, that's obviously why he didn't sell for much. A lot of the bloodstock agents were off him, but his parrot mouth was certainly noticeable, and his conformation was only so-so. But as it turns out, it didn't seem to stop him, and as I said, he got passed in for 9.5. Kathy went back and offered 10, and the breeder said done and took it straight away. So hence we ended up with him, and it was mainly due to the fact I think he had a bit of a pedigree there to the good filly we had up here, Ponty Piccolo, an able friend. There was a bit of blood back in the blocks to those, so hence the reason we sort of looked at him in the catalogue. And he's turned out to be a very, very good galloper. Well, he certainly did. So he was only purchased for under $20,000. He ended up winning. 10. Yeah, he was purchased for 10. Yeah. 10 it was, yeah. So he ended up winning close to 100,000. And his claim to fame, he ran in the Group 3 Gunsin Classic and ran a great second to Gem Song. He did. He was 50 to 1. He was big odds, and he ran second to Gem Song. And Sean Cormack rode him that day, and it was probably one of his PBs. And obviously all the owners were extremely happy. And unfortunately, not long after that, he did a suspensory tendon. He had to go out for a spell, and he come back. We got a couple of runs in him, but then it went again, so that was when we decided to retire him. Yep, it was time to find a new home, and luckily he had some loving owners, and obviously, as you mentioned, they were thrilled with the ride that he took them on in that period of time, and Sally Papworth took him in, and he's had a loving home ever since.
Yeah, they're lovely stories to hear about. Sally and Jim Papworth obviously had a part ownership in the horse, and they were wanted to take him and look after him, and they've done a tremendous job. He's got a loving home, and he's very well looked after and spoilt.
And he's still pretty, he's only 6-year-old, but he's Sally and Jim have got two older gallopers out in the paddock, so he's befriended the older one who's 24. So you got a 24-year-old and the 6-year-old, and Sally tells us that sometimes he thinks he's boss, but great to hear that he's got a loving home.
Yeah, that's the stories you like to hear about.
Yep, sure is. All right, well, great to hear more about Starkers, and we'll bring you more off the tracks in the coming weeks and months. Well, it's a big weekend of racing here at Eagle Farm, a 10-race card with the amalgamation of some of the races from Doomben last week into what was already a huge Derby day, and we've got Southern Stock heading towards the Derby, but let's kick off with Smart Meteor, who gets the team underway in the Group 3 Premiers Cup over the 2400. He ran a big race over the 2100 in the Group 3 Chairman's last start.
Yeah, he went very well. He's sort of heading towards the Ipswich Cup and Caloundra and Grafton Cups and those sorts of things, but his run the other day was very good. He's drawn nicely with Jaden Lloyd back on board, and from one gate he's not going to spend any energy early, and it just depends on what sort of luck he gets in running, I suppose. If they go along a good gallop, probably the faster they go, the better for him to be able to get home over the top of them.
And you think that the 2400, it's his first time at that, but the way he's racing, you think he'll get that?
Well, I think so. And I mean, as I said, we've got to get miles under his belt for these other races coming up. He's pretty close to the mark now as far as fitness goes, where I want him to be. And I just think this race on Saturday will top him off nicely.
Okay, very good. Well, good luck to everyone involved with Smart Meteor there. Elude lines up in the Group 2 BRC size produce for BK Racing and Breeding, and he's third up and up to the 1400 after his run in the Ken Russell, which I guess was a forgive on that heavy.
Well, you just got to forget he went round in the Ken Russell. Heavy track was no good to him. As I said previously, he wanted to jump and run as he would do on top of the ground. He's a fast horse. Hopefully Saturday dries out a little bit more here at Eagle Farm, where he can get a decent sort of footing on the track, and I'm sure he'll be right there on the speed somewhere. Then we've got to find out whether he runs the 1400. If he can run the 1400 out strong, he's certainly going to figure in the finish. He's certainly, in my opinion, well over the odds. Okay, well, Southern Stock thinks he can, nodding his head there, and let's talk about him. Grand final day for him. This is what his prep's been aimed at, and you've been happy with him. He's ticked all the boxes that you wanted to along the way. Yeah, I couldn't be happier with him. I've had a trouble-free prep with him. He's a lovely horse to train. He's got no health issues or anything to be concerned about, and it's a matter of just keeping him happy and fit on the day. He does the rest for us. So hopefully from the barrier 19, Larry can get a decent sort of run on him and put him into the race at the right time, and I'm sure he'll keep going for us. So, yeah, very exciting. Yeah, it is exciting. I mean, this is what it's all about, a Group 1 race, and he's drawn wide in barrier 19. I mean, obviously we talk about barriers a lot in the shorter distance races. What are your thoughts from the wide gate, in these staying trips? Oh, look, it's never ideal. You always want to draw inside if you can, but I think with a horse like him, it's not really the end of the world, because Larry always says he'd rather have him out away from other horses where he's got good galloping room and he can sort of get him going at the right time whenever he feels necessary. So I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to have to leave it up to Larry and the horse. I've done my job. He's fit and healthy, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and hopefully he gets the right sort of run. Does that give you confidence, the fact that he has shown some versatility in his races? Like, he can obviously bowl along, or he can, make a mid-race move? Yeah, look, I think the thing with him, it's got to be a good even gallop. If it's a sit and sprint, that's when he just hasn't got that turn of foot that some of them has, because he's just such a dour stayer. But if it's a good, solid gallop, I know who I'll be having my money on at the halfway mark. Okay, very good. Well, Mr. Reid, happy heading into grand final today? Yeah, no, I spoke to Harry early yesterday morning. He's very happy. He's going to come down, yeah, it'd be nice for the horse to race well for him. Very good. Well, good luck to Harry there with Southern Stock. And let's turn our attention now to Centrefire, who's the other runner entered for the program. Obviously, she was trying to run in listed company, get some black type in the Chief De Beers last week. That race has been reprogrammed, so chasing black type again, but unfortunately it is fourth emergency here. Yeah, well, we've got to get over that hurdle first. If she gets a run, she will run in the race, and I've got no doubt she'll race very well. She's absolutely flying, this mare, but we're having no luck getting into a few of these better races due to her rating and prize money and whatnot. So but the mare herself is in terrific order, so fingers crossed we can get enough scratchings to get in.
Okay, yeah, well, fingers crossed. Keep an eye out there on the scratchings. Let's turn our attention to the Friday night twilight Sunny Coast Poly meeting, and Poly's the theme of the weekend, isn't it?
It is.
This
Yeah.
Friday's twilight meeting gets us underway. Delight and Scoozy's Fly both entered for the maiden handicap over the 1100. They come out of the same race where Delight ran really well, and Scoozy's obviously still learning his craft.
Yeah, well, Delight won't run. She'll wait. Scoozy will probably have to run in his emergency. He'd also accepted Toowoomba, but he'll run on the Poly track there. He's improving all the time. He's actually working quite well, and he's not far off actually putting his hand up and showing something. So, first time on the Poly, I'm not sure how he'll handle that, but the horse is going very well.
Okay, very good. Well, good luck to Connections involved there. Better Rush races in a benchmark 70 handicap over the 900 and finished fourth in, I guess, similar company last start, and you think the racing pattern would be suited by the Poly?
Well, she'll be on speed. Luke Tarrant's very good getting him out of the gates, and she'll be right there. She hasn't missed a beat since her last run, so she's another one where don't believe I've had her on the Poly, so if she can handle the Poly, she'll be thereabouts.
Okay, very good. Well, the next race on the program is a Class 4 handicap where you've got Hot Spring Gold and Vista Bell entered. We've spoken about these two. They've sort of been, I guess, treading water in a way, waiting for a drier track and potentially racing on the synthetic here.
Yeah, well, Hot Spring Gold's been screaming out to go to the races for quite some time now, so he'll run. It's not ideal, but I mean, he's fit and healthy and well. I can't have him any better, so if he handles the Poly, he'll beat him. So it's just a matter of whether he can handle the Poly or not, but he's in very good order. Vista Bell needs to go to the races as well, so she'd also accepted for Toowoomba, but she's an emergency, so she'll probably go around and she'll get back a little bit, I would think, but I wouldn't be surprised to see her finishing the race off strongly.
Yeah, and we have seen in her former life, when she's racing down in Victoria, she does have form on the synthetic down there.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how she handles this on Friday.
Okay, and good luck to the Queensland Rogues owners in Hot Spring Gold. Lots of owners involved there and been waiting patiently as you have as trainer.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, it's just been one of them things. His wet form record's not that strong, so we've tried to wait for the dry, but he's at a stage now where he's got to go to the races.
Sure, okay. The other two runners entered for the program in the Class 1 handicap are Finskill and Sea Ripple. Finskill, we spoke about last week, is sort of ready to kick off preparation here.
Yeah, both doubtful runners. They've both drawn poorly. They've got other options coming up, so we'll probably wait with them.
Okay, and then we're back on the Poly track on Saturday for Dash for Dreams, running in an open handicap over the 1400 metres.
Yeah, well, Dash for Dreams has been sort of aiming towards the Gay Waterhouse. She was never going to get a run here in town on Saturday, so we've just accepted with her up there to keep her up to the mark. Angela Jones to ride, she'll roll forward and give herself every chance from there.
Okay, she raced obviously in high grade last start. Is that a forgive? She had excuses?
Yeah, well, she used a little bit of petrol there going forward on a pretty sticky track, so I'd probably put a line through that.
Okay, we then turn our attention to the Ipswich meeting on Sunday. Holterman and Brookhaven are both entered for a race there, the cutest 2-year-old maiden, but you also got an option for them for the Doomben meeting on Monday.
Both accepted. I'll probably at this stage lean to run Holterman on Sunday and Brookhaven on Monday, I would think. I think Brookhaven's better suited at the mile at this early stage of his career. So at this stage, that's probably the way we'll go with them.
And they were both good runs first up. You happy with how they are heading into this?
Very happy, yeah. No, as I say, I think Brookhaven's looking for the mile the way he raced. He got back and really hit the line good. And Holterman was on speed and wide, but kept coming. So I think the 1350 at Ipswich should suit him nicely. Okay,
very good. And then the other runners on the Ipswich program, Everlast and Marisa Star, entered for the same race, the cutest 3-year-old maiden handicap. And Everlast was better last start, and Marisa Star shown improvement also.
Yeah, they're both improving maideners. Everlast raced a lot better the other day. Probably, Sam got him to relax nicely outside lead, and it was just one of those tracks where I think if she rolled on and led, it might have made the difference between winning and running second. But I mean, the horse raced well, which was positive to see.
That was the Everlast that you sort of know, as opposed to the start prior, where it was
correct.
Just
He's a very good galloper, this horse, but he's just been he's a very immature horse mentally. But hopefully the penny's starting to drop with him now with a bit of racing.
Okay, and Marisa Star is an emergency for the same race.
Yeah, well, she's got a run, and I'm pretty happy with her too. She's another one. She's just kept on improving, and I think she'll give herself a chance on that cushion track, which she raced very well on last time.
Okay, well there you have it. There's the previews for a big weekend of racing. Lots happening with rescheduled meetings and things going ahead. Here he is. Good luck to you, mate, and good luck to everyone over the weekend.